Good evening. This is Ward 6 Councilmember Charles Allen, as well as Chair of the Council's Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. I want to thank the DC Bar Foundation for being a great partner in building a stronger and more robust civil legal network in the District of Columbia. This work gets at the core of so many of the challenges that our city faces and our society and all that we're wrestling with: a home, family, safety, financial stability. I suspect that everyone here already knows when it comes to civil legal proceedings, there's an enormous gulf in representation based solely on how much money you have to afford sound legal representation. Now, during my time as the chair of this committee, I've made it a budget priority to fund and expand the Access to Justice initiative, including this year when we were able to restore proposed cuts and expand funding to Access to Justice programs even further, including the district's historic right to representation in eviction proceedings. When we fought to get that bill passed, I remember there was a really shocking statistic. In any given eviction, 9 out of 10 times the landlord will have an attorney, while less than 1 in 10 cases, you'll find the same thing for a tenant. So setting aside the specifics of any case, we know that's what our justice system should look like. To me, this funding is seed money. It's an investment in a more just future. It represents just the beginning of the district's effort to balance the scales of justice and to right historic wrongs. You know as well as I do that too often the deck is stacked against our neighbors who don't have the time, the income, or the ability to mount a legal defense, to stave off eviction, to fight workplace issues, or to keep their family together. But you all do. The members of the DC Bar Foundation work pro bono. They represent district residents in these cases, and those who support the work, you are helping one person at a time to chip away at generations of inequality. It would be impossible to talk about the DC Bar Foundation and the civil legal aid removed from the cultural moment that we're living through right now as Americans, as we once again try to grapple with our history of racism and racial inequity. I know that it can feel daunting to think about these cases individually and the number of people who may not have been lucky enough to find their way into help. It can feel overwhelming. I know. I hope that it provides some hope that I'm with you. I'm committed to expanding our right to civil Gideon. As an elected leader, I know this is an area where we can make a big difference in getting closer to our ideals of a legal system that is truly centered on fairness and justice. And I hope as you look around this evening that you recognize there's a lot of good people putting in really long hours and making big sacrifices to ensure this work continues, working shoulder to shoulder with all of us. I want to thank you for your support for the DC Bar Foundation. I know we're all used to doing things a little different these days, but it's so important that you continue to support the Bar Foundation's work through this pandemic, because I think we're going to need it even more in the months to come, in the years to come than ever before. But I'll leave you with this thought. Whatever our recovery from this pandemic looks like, if there's any hope that we capitalize on this opportunity to come back to a more just and more fair community, it will depend on a legal system that recognizes the humanity of each of us and not only acknowledges but tries to undo historic inequalities. You're all making this work possible. I'm grateful for it. I also stand with you as a friend in this work to get the job done. So thanks everyone, and again, thank you so much to the DC Bar Foundation.